Thank you, Tim. I had to sort of work quite hard to persuade Tim to give me the much sought after pre-lunch slot, which suitably came. And I nearly didn't make it because we actually had a death in the family yesterday, unfortunately. To be fair, it was a goldfish. And I explained to my daughter that she had to go to school still and I was going to work, but there we are. Anyway, so if Peter felt a bit worried about being in the way of you and coffee earlier on, then pity the man who's between you and the advertising industry. It's lunch. But I will be brief, and it's less of a keynote and more of a wrap-up, really. But if you go back to the start of the morning, Gavin said that advertising is everybody's business, and in particular, our business. And I think, laid down the challenge to say, let's get stuck in, let's make kind of full use of the morning. And I have to say, I think it's been outstanding. I think there's been some superb debate, superb discussion, great panels, and I hope you all have got stuck in. And I think it's been really good. And it is deliberately called a summit by the AA, the lead summit rather than a conference, because if a conference is more about educating, informing, entertaining, a bit like the BBC, I guess, a summit's more about tackling issues, trying to actually grab an opportunity, solve a problem. And my sense of the conversation this morning is, certainly for me personally, taking over at this time of the presidency, but for the AA as a whole, I think it will be a very helpful basis to start thinking about the issues that we need to be tackling in the year ahead with your help. So in that context, I think we've had 3 fantastic sort of sessions during the course of the morning. And my congratulations to Tim and the AA team for assembling an absolutely stellar A-list sort of cast throughout the morning. And speaking personally, I think there's been different lessons from the different sessions, but something which for me has sort of helped shape some of the blurred lines around some of these issues more sharply focused. So unlike Gavin this morning, who was reflecting back on the last 2 or 3 years, I'll pick up perhaps some of the themes of this morning and think about what that might mean going into the future. So we began with the advertising pays report, the second report following on from last year's, which talked about the 100 billion advertising generates for the economy. And this morning, the big opportunity of the SMEs and the 40 billion opportunity potentially for the economy, as well as a big opportunity for many people in the advertising industries. And my reflections are that I think the report, having had the chance to read it beforehand, is both compelling and authoritative. And it represents a job that's only just started today. It was unveiled last night. It's been picked up by a couple of the national newspapers today. There's been interest online and so on. But actually, we must be ambitious collectively in getting those findings out there. And it's about actually making it happen if we ourselves make it our business to get it out there. No one else is going to do it for us. So ask yourselves, how can you play a part in promoting awareness of the industries and the effects and some of the things we've been talking about? And you can be a bit selfish about it. How can you make it work for yourself in your organisation, your situation? But collectively, the 1% idea that came up earlier, collectively, we've all got a responsibility and opportunity to do our bit to get that message out there. I think the ThinkBox fantastic video test from you and the team showed us how. I think we've heard from some fantastic people this morning how we can go about doing that. And over the past 12 months, I know the AA has been working with many of you to bring some of these stories to life that raise profile, engage employees, and actually create better political outcomes. But think about the impact if the 300-odd people who've been here this morning go out and make a commitment to do one specific thing this year to get that message out there. Think about the difference it could make if the 550,000 people whose livelihoods depend on advertising in its broadest sense, also did something to get that message out there. It could be transformative. Mentoring a small business towards growth, perhaps. Publishing the story. Taking the debate that Scilla and the panel had earlier on. How do you build that kind of narrative? How do you build a bigger picture of advertising's role around training and induction? Maybe blog or tweet. Maybe be old-fashioned. Just speak about it to some people. But actually communicate the message, and the point was made a couple of times about the advertising industries doing a better job of advertising themselves. And it is about the opportunity, not just for advertising, but it can have in our broader country and the economy as a whole. It's not just economic good, it's also the social good that can bring. So take a copy of Advertising Pays next time you meet up with a journalist or an MP. And make more of Advertising Week that's coming up in a couple of months' time. Make more of some of the other industry conferences that take place with the different trade associations, the board meetings, the away days. There are plenty of opportunities to keep this agenda moving forward. And actually, all we're really asking is that you commit to one and find a way to do that. Through the morning, we then turned to the political debate. And I think the point was made very clear that with the election coming up and three parties putting manifestos together, the unexpected or unknown impact of UKIP, a really interesting time, an important time. And a debate for me, hearing some of the sessions earlier on, which threw into sharp relief the importance of the Advertising Association's last of its 3 Rs, to promote advertising's role, its rights, but also its responsibilities. And just as in the business side, where we've got a powerful economic interest and a commercial imperative for promoting advertising, we have to be in touch with our conscience. I passionately believe that brands not only have to be more considerate of society and what society's concerns are, but have to give increasing thought, not just to their purpose, but how they set about achieving their purpose. This was certainly true for me at Camelot Now and the National Lottery. We have a very clear purpose, but how do we go about fulfilling that purpose? And it's certainly been true for me in the past in companies like Unilever, BBC and Channel 4. I'm not quite sure how HRO fits with its Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, Bentleys and Bugattis, but they were good fun to drive. So, but more seriously, it's one of the reasons I've accepted this role, because I believe that we collectively need to keep a sense of responsibility. If you remember a few years ago, the TV and radio industries that I was working in at the time had all sorts of phone-in scandals. They lost their way with brands like Richard and Judy, or people like Richard and Judy, Ant and Dec, Queen Date, and of course the Blue Peter cat incident. Still one of the best mornings of my working life. Fresh off the back of the Big Brother debacle and Richard and Judy being first in the firing line in phone-in scandals, yes, the BBC was also in trouble, and not only that, it was Blue Peter. Now, looking back on it, some of it's trivial, but some of it was actually very serious. Tens of millions of pounds of revenue was generated from the public, in many cases actually fraudulently. There were no criminal prosecutions, but there could have been, where people had deliberately set up competitions to maximise money, giving the players no chance to win. Elements of the industry briefly lost their sense of moral compass. And it did take some time, as well as, I have to say, some heavy-duty intervention from regulators to actually focus minds and begin that process of regaining trust and credibility. I think the advertising industry can be rightly proud of its strong history of self-regulation. I actually think it's the best example we have in the UK. These processes and principles of self-regulation need not only to be defended and monitored, but developed and advanced in a changing world. We need to be honest with ourselves and encourage the AA to play its role as a critical friend. We have blind spots, we need to be willing to address them, just as we did when we extended the ASA's remit online, and just as we've done with self-regulation of behaviourally targeted ads. We've actually won political plaudits for our leadership on body image debate, but what next? Issues around native advertising, the rise of social, new forms of advertising, new products, new services emerging. And we've heard even this morning from the Labour Shadow Minister, their concerns around some of the topics of children and gambling and other things. To continue to lead on these debates, to win political support with any of the parties, we need to find the right balance through high-quality evidence, some of which we've seen today. We also need to have strong leadership, some of which we've seen today. But above all, we need a willingness to engage, and that's where we all come in. And I think that last session with Jamie and the excellent panel that then Sarah chaired is a really good point around that as well, around the balancing of the creative agenda and the kind of ad people agenda and the commercial agenda. And we need to make sure that advertising's higher up the agenda, but in a sort of socially responsible way as well. And the only people that can make sure it's there are the people in this room. So that brings us back to kind of where we started the day. Advertising is everybody's business, but it's our business more than most. And what are you going to do to make a difference in the year ahead? So perhaps that's something to think about over lunch. But thank you for coming. Thank you for your contributions and participation this morning. And most of all, I think thank you in advance for commitment you can make to make a difference in moving these vital debates forward. Thank you.